such as Shravan and Kirtan, if he is still in the stage of being bound by anarthas, then he will be unable to make his performance of bhakti steady on account of the following five almost impressible obstacles: laya, drowsiness, vikshep, distraction, apratipatti, incompetence, kashaya, bitterness, and rasaswad, taste for mundane pleasure. The quality of nishtha, fixed determination, can only enter one's performance of bhakti after the stage of anartha nivritti. When these five obstacles have almost gone, hence we should understand that the absence of these five obstacles is symptomatic of nishtha. Here the symptoms of the stages of nishtha are being explained. Nishtha means without wavering. When steadiness is achieved in bhajan, it is called nishtita bhajana kriya. Even when the sadhaka tries to bring this steadiness to his bhajana, as long as he remains at a stage in which he is still bound by anarthas, his aspirations will go in vain, will not achieve steadiness in bhajan, because five kinds of obstacles remain within him. Sri Vishnu Thakur has described that the absence of these five kinds of obstacles, laya, vikshepa, apratipatti, kashaya, and rasaswad, is a sign that nishtha has awakened. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Shri Rudra prays to Bhagavan, Nayasya chittam bahirartha vibramam tamo guhayam cha vishuddhamavishan yad bhakti yoganukrhitam anjasa munir vichasate vichaste nanu tatra te gatim. O master, the fruit of associating with saints, satsanga is the performance of bhakti yoga to you, through which a person's consciousness is blessed and becomes supremely pure. Consequently, one's consciousness is no longer distracted by external sense objects, and one does not enter into the dark cave of ignorance. At that time, a person can understand you, the absolute truth. This verse describes a sadhaka who is free from laya, vikshepa, kashaya, apradipatti, and rasasva. The five obstacles to nishtha. Tatra laya kirtana shravana smaraneshu उत्तरेष्वाधिक्येन निद्रोद्गमः विक्षेपातेषु व्यवहारिक वार्ता संपर्कः अप्रतिपत्ति कदाचिल्लय विक्षेपयोर अभावे कीर्तनादि असमार्थम कषायः क्रोध लोभ गर्वादि संस्कारः रसास्वादः विषय सुखोदय काले कीर्तनादिषु मनो anavinivesh. Increased oppressive drowsiness while chanting, more while hearing, and even more while remembering is called laya. Reminiscing about virtuous topics related to mundane life at a time of hearing, chanting, or remembering is called vikshepa. Even in the absence of laya and vikshep, sometimes we may find that we are simply unable to properly hear, chant, or remember. This obstacle is known as apratipatti. So, the various impressions of anger, greed, and false ego that manifest while performing sadhana of the limbs of bhakti, such as hearing, chanting, or remembering, is called prasad. The inability to absorb the mind in the angas of bhakti, such as kirtana, when the opportunity for material sense pleasure arises, is known as rasaswada. The five kinds of obstacles to nishtha are as follows: laya, vikshepa, apratipatti, kashaya, and rasaswada. Laya, the increasing drowsiness that comes while hearing, chanting, and remembering is known as laya. In other words, due to the obstacles of laya, um, Um, Drowsiness emerges more while hearing than while chanting, and even more while remembering than while hearing. Such sleepiness manifests from the mode of ignorance and deprives the sadhak of relishing the rasa of bhajan. It prevents him from tasting the sweetness of the limbs of bhakti like Shravan and Kirtana. In fact, this obstacle arises because relish of the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Bhagavan is present. Vikshepa. When mundane, ordinary topics commingle with hearing, chanting, remembering, and so on, it is called Vikshep. For example, the sadhaka may hold his japamala in his hand and continue chanting his fixed number of rounds, and at the same time engage in gossiping with others about all kinds of mundane things. And the sadhaka's restless or distracted mind, totally immersed in mundane topics, is unable to touch the holy name. Since the sadhaka's daily goal is merely the completion of his fixed number of rounds, he remains deprived of truly tasting the nectar of the holy name. As such, although the sadhaka may sit in an assembly and listen to Bhagavad Katha from the beginning to end, he will be ensnared by topics of mundane enjoyment. Due to this obstacle, the sadhaka's mind cannot remember the transcendental form and pastimes of Bhagavan, and instead wanders here and there, clinging to various topics. Such wandering is the work of the mode of passion. Apratipatti. So here we are seeing that so many types of obstacles. He is explaining that many times we take mala in our hand, then instead of chanting, we are discussing this topic, that topic. That is actually going on. So here, first we have to know what type of anarthas we have. So here, apratipatti means even if the first two obstacles, laya and vikshep, no longer remain, we see that the mind of the sadhaka may still be incapable of hearing and chanting. This obstacle is called apratipatti, incompetence or failure. In this condition, a lack of enthusiasm appears within the sadhaka's mind, creating lethargy in bhajan. In fact, enthusiasm, utsaha, has been called the life of Shraddha. This apratipatti is born from the mode of ignorance, kashaya. When previous impressions of anger, greed, conceit, and so forth are present in one's practice of hearing, chanting, and remembering, it is called kashaya. When one is still bound by anarthas, then on account of previous impressions, the following will arise within one's heart. Anger. Even at the slightest provocation, a desire to relish sweet, tasteful preparations, greed for wealth, and false ego and vanity in regard to one's body and positions. Rasaswada. The mind cannot experience material pleasure and simultaneously be absorbed in hearing, chanting, and remembering. Thus, on account of the mind's absorption in material enjoyment, it cannot be absorbed in bhajan. This obstacle is called rasaswada. One should understand that both kashaya and rasaswada are the work of the mode of passion. It is by these symptoms that the sadhakas can ascertain for themselves whether or not they have entered nishtita bhakti, unaffected by emotions arising from passion and ignorance. Bhaktir bhavati nishtiki, tada rajastamo bhava, kamalobha deshe, चेत एतैर अनाविद्धम स्थितम सत्वे प्रसिद्धति इति अत्र सो इति अत्र चकारस्य समुच्चया तत्वात् रजस्तमो भाव एव लभ्यन्ते किं च एतैर अनाविद्धम इति उक्ते भाव पर्यन्तं तेषां स्थितिरपि अस्ति भक्ति अबाधकतैव भावानुवाद. At this point, one may ask, can the remaining anarthas, those that have not been completely eradicated, cause obstacles in bhakti, even after attaining the stage of Nishtha Bhakti? Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.19 has been quoted to address this doubt. Upon the awakening of unflinching determination in bhakti, Naishtiki Bhakti, the emotions that arise due to the material modes of passion and ignorance, as well as lust, greed, and so on, no longer penetrate the heart of the devotee. Thus, his heart, being situated in Shuddha Sattva, pure transcendence, obtains complete happiness. In this verse, we should understand by the conjunctive use of the word cha, which is used in the sense of the total aggregation of the previous terms, that all these worldly emotions, such as those in the modes of passion and ignorance, still exist at the stage of nishtha. But the verse also states that the consciousness of the devotee remains more or less undisturbed or untouched. This statement establishes that as long as the stage of bhava has not been attained, these worldly emotions essentially exist, but in benign form and not as impediments to bhakti. Srila Vishwanath Thakur is saying that even after the stage of anartha nivritti, moods arising from the material modes of passion and ignorance continue to exist within the heart of the sadhaka. However, the way in which such moods create these five types of obstacles and disturb the bhajan of one at the stage of anartha nivritti does not occur for one at the stage of nishtha. Rather, at that stage, they remain in an innocuous form. Here, the author presents the last line of the two verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, quoted at the beginning of this fourth chapter and the subsequent verse. Bhaktir bhavati naishtiki, tada rajastamo bhava kam lobha daishche, chet ete rana viddham sitam sattve prasiddhati. Upon the awakening of unflinching determination in bhakti, naishtiki bhakti, the moods that arise due to the material modes of passion and ignorance, lust, greed, and so on, no longer contaminate the heart of the sadhaka. Thus, his heart being situated in Shuddha Sattva, pure transcendence, obtains complete happiness. The letter cha in the above verse is understood to mean aggregate, which indicates that the lust, greed, and emotions in the modes of passion and ignorance are still present. However, at that point, they are not impediments to bhajan, but remain within the heart of the sadhaka innocuously, which explains why when one has nishtha, no obstacle remains in one's hearing, chanting, and remembering. In his Sarartha Darshini commentary on these verses, Srila Vishwanath Thakur explains the meaning of the word anavidham as follows. Tena purva dashayam kama lovadayi tikshna sarai taitra vidham चेतः कथम प्रसिद्धतु कथम वा कीर्तनादे सम्यगास्वादनम लब्धताम नहीं व्यथा जर जर्जरिय जर्जरितस्यान् नादिकम सम्यक रोचते इति भावा. The meaning that this means that prior to the awakening of nishtha in bhajan, the heart of the sadhaka is pierced by the sharp arrows of lust, greed, and so forth. So, how can it feel joy? How will the sadhaka be capable of thoroughly testing the nectar of hearing, chanting, and remembering? A person being torn apart by arrows will never be entirely be able to relish his meal. Nishtha directly in bhakti herself, and nishtha in that which is favorable to bhakti. Sacha nishtha sakshat bhakti vartini tad anukula vastuvartiniti dividha. तत्र साक्षात भक्तिर अनंत प्रकारापि स्थूलतया त्रिविधा कायिकी वाचिकी मानसी चेति तत्र प्रथमं कायिकाश्च कायिकास्ततो वाचिकास्ततो एव मानस्या भक्तिर्निष्ठा. संभवेत इति केचित्. भक्तेषु तारतम्येन स्थितानां भक्तेषु तारतम्येन स्थितानाम् अपि सहौजो बलानां मध्ये क्वचन भक्ते विलक्षण तादृश संस्कारवशात् कस्यचित् एव भगवत् उन्मुखत्वाधिक्यं स्यात् इति न्यायं क्रम इति अन्ये. तद अनुकूल वस्तुनि अमानित्व मानवत्व मैत्री दयादिनी. Nishtha is also of two types: resting in bhakti herself, sakshat bhakti vartini, that is directly related to the nine limbs of bhakti, such as Shravan and Kirtan. And number two, resting in that which is favorable to bhakti, that anukula vastu vartini, that is related to favorable qualities required to directly practice the limbs of bhakti. Although sakshat bhakti vartini nishtha is of two types, there are three main divisions: kaiki, performed by the body; vachiki, performed by speech; and manasi, performed within the mind. Some people are of the opinion that the sadhaka first develops nishtha in bhakti. Some people are of the opinion that the sadhaka first develops nishtha in bhakti performed with the body, then in bhakti performed by speech, and finally in bhakti performed within the mind. However, devotees develop a greater inclination towards Bhagavan in either kaiki bhakti, vachiki bhakti, or manasi bhakti, according to their varying degrees of endurance in relation to the body, brilliance in relation to the faculty of speech, or power in relation to the mind. This is due to the impact of their various previous experiences, sanskaras. Thus, some say that there is no fixed sequence in regard to these three divisions. Qualities such as not desiring respect from others, yet always offering others respect, friendship and compassion are favorable for bhakti. Nishtha in such qualities is called tad anukula vastu vartini, piyusha varshini vritti. Now the categories of nishtha are being defined. Nishtha in bhakti is of two types. Number one, fixed determination related directly to bhakti herself, sakshat bhakti vishayini. And number two, fixed determination related to qualities favorable to bhakti, tad anukula vastu vishayini. Although the terms used in the Bhavanuvad and the Piyusha Varshini Vritti are different, their implications are the same. The word Vartini literally means to rest in, as in Nishtha resting directly in Bhakti, or Bhakti resting in qualities that are favorable in Bhakti. And Vishayani literally means within the scope of. So, number one, Sakshat Bhakti Vishayani Nishtha, fixed determination related directly to Bhakti herself. This Nishtha is of three types: related to the body, kaiki; related to speech, vachiki; and related to the mind, manas. Kaiki nishtha, fixed determination related to the body. Resolve in performing activities such as the following constitutes kaiki nishtha: hearing Shri Bhagavad Katha, serving the tulsi tree and picking her leaves, making flower garlands for Bhagavan, worshipping the deity, offering obeisances to the deity, circumambulating the deity or a holy place, and cleansing the temple of Bhagavan. Vachikanishta, fixed determination related to speech. Resolve in performing activities such as the following constitutes Vachikanishta: Kirtana of the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Bhagavan, offering prayers in eulogy, revealing one's mind through prayerful entreaty, glorifying Bhagavan and reciting narrations about him. Number three, Manasinishta, fixed determination related to the mind. Resolve in contemplating and remembering the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Bhagavan constitutes Manasi Nishtha. Unflinching faith or steadiness in these angas of bhakti is to have fixed determination related directly to bhakti herself. In his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Jiva Goswami has written, Nishtha Tatra Vikshepena Sadatyam. When someone's bhajan is uninterrupted and devoid of any distractions, it is called Nishtha. Some people are of the opinion that Nishtha first awakens in bhakti, performed with one's body, kaiki, then in bhakti performed through one's faculty of speech, vachiki, and finally in bhakti performed with one's mind, manasi. But this is not the sequence every sadhaka passes through. According to each sadhaka's previous impressions, we find that he will have varying degrees of endurance, brilliance, and power. Some sadhakas have more mental power than the physical endurance or brilliant faculty of speech. So it is not so astonishing that they will first attain steadiness in bhakti, perform with their mind, mansi bhakti. That is why it can be said that there is no fixed sequence in the attainment of these three forms of nishtha. Tad anukula vastu visheni nishtha. Fixed determination related to qualities that are favorable to bhakti. Qualities such as offering respect to others but never demanding respect in return, sympathy, compassion, forgiveness, gratefulness, and so forth are favorable for bhakti. Offering respect to others and never demanding respect in return help nourish humility, the elixir that gives life to the bhakti of the sadhaka. Compassion for every living entity, friendship, and a mood of kindness are qualities by which bhakti becomes free from obstacles and firmly established within the heart of the sadhaka. For those who cannot forgive the faults of others, praying to God for forgiveness is nothing but imitation. Of all these qualities, the quality of gratitude, kritagyata, is especially favorable for bhakti. In For Bhakti Devi does not appear in an ungrateful heart. Shri Bhagavan himself is thoroughly imbued with the quality of gratitude. Bhagavan gives his very self as charity when the devotee makes a simple offering of tulsi and water. When the evil sorceress, Putana, simply imitated the mood of her mother, Bhagavan made her life successful by instating her in the exalted position of his own nursemaid in Golok. Gratefulness is truly the testimony of an elevated personality's greatness, and ungratefulness is the testimony of a lowly person's worthlessness. To whatever extent a person has become truly elevated, gratitude will be found residing in his heart. Bhakti Devi will never appear in a small hearted person devoid of gratitude. 3b. Not desiring respect for oneself and offering all respect to others, etc., does not necessarily indicate nishtha. Tesham nishtha cha kutrachana shamah prakrutau bhakte bhakter अनिष्ठत्वे दृश्यते कुत्रचन तस्मिन् उद्धते भक्ते निष्ठत्वत्वे अपि न दृश्यते यदपि तदपि भक्तिनिष्ठैव ससत्त्वा सत्त्वाभ्यां तन्निष्ठ सत्त्वा सत्त्वे स्तुत्यम् अवगम्यति न तु बालप्रतीतिर् एव वास्तविकर्तुं shakyati. Bhavanuvada. Sometimes we see that a self-controlled devotee lacks nishtha in bhakti, but has nishtha in such qualities as not desiring respect and always offering it. Inversely, we may also observe that a devotee with an arrogant nature has nishtha in bhakti, but not in such qualities. It appears to be a valid inference to many, not only to those with immature intelligence, but even to learned persons, that the presence of these favorable qualities signifies nishtha in bhakti, and that their absence signifies the lack of nishtha in bhakti. Piyusha Vashni Vritti. It is possible that within the heart of a self-controlled sadhaka, we may find that all these good qualities are present, despite the absence of nishtha in bhakti. In other words, such qualities may be evident in some self-controlled devotee who are still at the stage of unsteady devotion, anishtita bhakti. And conversely, we may find a sadhaka with an exalted nature in whom nishtha has already been arisen, but who does not exhibit any of these qualities. Therefore, there is no certainty that these auspicious qualities will awaken whenever nishtha is manifest. The opinion that the presence of all these good qualities is an indication that nishtha in bhakti has been awakened, and that the absence of them is an indication that it has not, may be adopted not only by those who are ignorant of Shastra, but even by those who are wise and conversant with Shastra. Nishtha in Kirtan and so forth is actual Nishtha. Yaduktam bhaktir bhavati nashthiki tada rajastamo bhava kama lobhadesche चेतयते नाविद्यम स्थितम सत्य प्रसिद्ध श्रवण कीर्तनादिषु यत्नस्य शैथिल्य प्राबल्य एव दुस्तज्जे संभवन्ति निष्ठिता निष्ठे भक्ति प्रदर्शयतम इति संक्षेपतो विवेकः इति माधुर्य कादम्बिन्यां निश्चंद बंधुरनाम चतुर्थ्यामृत वृष्टि भावानुवाद. And this is understandable given that Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.19 states that it is only when Nashtiki Bhakti awakens within the devotee's heart that he will no longer be hindered by passion and ignorance, or by lust, greed, and the like. Thus, situated in Shuddha Sattva, he will achieve true happiness. Intense enthusiasm to perform the limbs of bhakti, such as hearing and chanting, is the actual benchmark of steadiness, nishtha, in bhakti. And laxity in performing the limbs of bhakti is the benchmark of unsteadiness, anishtha in bhakti. This is but a summary of the deliberation on the subject of bhakti nishtha. Thus ends the Bhavanuvad of the fourth shower of nectar named Nishanda Bandura, flow of ambrosia. Piyusha Varshnavritti. We find the apparent evidence for this misconception regarding what indicates Nishtha in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.18-19. Bhaktir bhavati naishtiki tadarajastamo bhava kamalobhadesche chetetirana viddham sthitam sattve prasidati. When Naishtiki Bhakti manifests within the heart, it can no longer be affected by the modes of passion and ignorance, nor by their effects such as lust and greed. Thus, becoming situated in Shuddha Sattva, one's heart attains true happiness. Although the previously mentioned qualities are unfavorable for Nishtha in Bhakti, they are not required to remain Nishtha in Bhakti. The intensity or apathy of one's Shravan, Kirtan, etc. are requisite in determining whether one is practicing Nishtita Bhakti or Anishtita Bhakti. In other words, we should understand that intense endeavor in Shravan and Kirtan indicates firm steadiness in Bhakti, and its absence indicates unsteadiness. Thus ends the Piyusha Varshini Vritti on the fourth shower of nectar named Nishanda Bandhura, flow of ambrosia. Fifth shower of nectar, realization of transcendental taste, sadhana bhakti ruchi. The awakening and symptoms of ruchi as the factor that awakens asakti. Atabhyasa Krishna Vartma Deepitam Bhakti Kanchana Mudram Swatejasa Vahantim Dadhane Bhaktarudhi Tasyam Ruchir Utpatyate Shravana Kirtanadinam Anyato Velakshanena Rochakatvam Ruchi Yasyam Utpatyamanayam Purva Dashayam Iva तर मुहुरपि अनुशीलितैर्न श्रमफलब्धि गन्धोऽपि याहि तेषु व्यसनित्वम् अचिराद् एवोत्पादयति यथा नित्यं शास्त्रम् अधीयानस्य बटोः कालेर् शास्त्रार्थ प्रवेशे सति शास्त्रस्य रोचकत्वम् उत्पाद्यमानम् एव त्वं तत्र श्रमं नोपनयन्ति असमञ्जयति एव. After the stage of nishtha, the devotee, by carrying in his heart the golden medallion of bhakti, which has been burnished by the fire of steady practice and which bears its own unique splendor, experiences the awakening of ruchi, pure spiritual taste in bhakti. At that time, the distinctive delight the sadhaka feels in performing one particular limb of bhakti over another is called ruchi. When ruchi is awakened, a person does not experience even the slightest trace of fatigue in his repeated performance of hearing, chanting, and other limbs, angas of devotion, as he did at previous stages. This ruchi quickly makes the devotee addicted to his practice of the angas of bhakti. In other words, ruchi leads to the awakening of intense attachment, asakti to such practice. For example, a Brahman boy, by regularly studying the scriptures, gradually gains a proper understanding of their meaning. As a result, a relish for such study awakens in his heart. His delight is such that his study does not cause him the slightest fatigue. Rather, it serves only to intensify his attachment to scriptures. The fourth shower of nectar discuss nishtha in bhajan. Just as gold becomes dazzling by being heated in fire, similarly the golden medallion of bhakti is burnished by the fire of the sadhaka's practice of bhajan with nishtha. By keeping that medallion in his heart, the sadhaka attains ruchi in bhakti. A golden gem on a person's chest gives the chest a golden hue and causes it to appear magnificent. In a similar way, the heart of a devotee carrying the radiant medallion of bhakti becomes effulgent. Consequently, the devotee progressively develops greater fondness for chanting than for hearing, and still greater fondness for remembering than for chanting. The distinct relish one obtains from transcendental perception of the forms, qualities, pastimes, etc. of Sri Krishna and his associates is called ruchi. In his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sri Jiva Goswami has written, Ruchir Abhilashaha Kintu Buddhi Purvakam Ruchi. Ruchi is understood to mean a desire, but that is guided by one's intelligence, Buddhi Purvakam. In other words, it refers to a longing or thirst for Sri Krishna. If this thirst is imbued with a favorable disposition towards him, it is the very life force of bhakti. Along with the awakening of such thirst for one's cherished Sri Krishna, a longing to serve him with affection and warmth also arises automatically. It is for this reason that Sri Jiva Goswami has written that desire, Avilash, is of three types. A deep yearning to do what is favorable for Sri Krishna, Anukulya Vilash, a deep yearning to serve him with intimacy, Sauhardha Vilash, and a deep yearning to attain him, Praptya Vilash. When the desire to please Sri Krishna by serving him with genuine affection arises, the desire to attain him and to serve him with intimacy also appear in the heart. Automatically, At the stage of ruchi, these desires are impelled by the intelligence, and at the stage of asakti, they are spontaneous. Ruchi pertains to one's performance of bhajan of Sri Hari. The sadhaka's relish of the distinctive speciality of each aspect of bhakti in relation to Sri Hari's forms, qualities, and pastimes is called ruchi. When ruchi awakens, one does not experience even the slightest sense of fatigue in continuous hearing and chanting. Unlike at the previous stages, this ruchi causes a deep attachment, asakti to hearing, chanting, and so forth to manifest in the heart of the devotee. Subsequently, any time spent in activities that are unrelated to Bhagavan seems exceedingly worthless. Before the stage of ruchi, one is not able to fully relish topics about Sri Krishna. But at the stage of ruchi, such topics are extremely delectable. And madhurya, a delightful sweetness, is realized. In his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.4.15 to 17, Srila Jiva Goswami has written, Ruchi Papa Bija Nashat Bhakto Madhuryanubhava. At the stage of ruchi, the seed of sinful activity is completely destroyed and one begins to experience the sweetness of bhajan. In the same commentary, Srila Jiva Goswami has also explained, Madhuryam tu Rupa Guna Leelanam Rochakatvam. To relish the forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna exclusively is to realize his delightful sweetness. When ruchi for Harikatha is awakened, a person never feels satiated by hearing and speaking about the attributes of Sri Krishna. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.19 it is said, Vayam tuna vitrupyama uttama shloka vikrame yashunvatam rasagyanam swadu swadu pade pade. The sages headed by Sri Shaunak Rishi said, O Sutta Goswami, even though we have repeatedly heard about the valorous pastimes of Sri Hari, who is glorified by exalted prayers, we are not satiated. To hear the pastimes of Sri Hari spoken by Rasik devotees is supremely relishable at every moment. Srimad Bhagavatam states, Dharma sunashtita pumsam vishvaksena katha suyam notpadiyadi ratim vishramai vai kevalam. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own social position are nothing but useless labor if they do not initiate an attraction for hearing Harikatha. In his Krama Sandarbha commentary on the above verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Jiva Goswami has determined that taste in bhajan awakens with taste for Harikatha. He has written, Katha ruche sarvatraivadyatvad sreshtatvad. Indeed, in every way, taste for Harikatha is the first and also the highest step. When a student first reads a particular scripture, he needs to endeavor assiduously to ascertain its essence, which he finds abstruse. Consequently, he does not find his study relishable. In time, however, when the actual meaning of the scripture dawns on him, he finds great satisfaction and delight in such study, and his effort is completely devoid of strength. Similarly, the bhajan of sadhakas entering the path of bhakti is somewhat slack because they do not experience relish in practicing the limbs of bhajan. Bhajana seems extremely difficult to them, but by persisting in their practice, their heart gradually becomes cleansed and they relish bhajan rasa. To the degree that this takes place, they experience the awakening of taste in bhajan. Text 2. Bhakti destroys ignorance and awakens a taste for bhakti. Vastuta siddhante tu paitika vaigunnena dushitayam rasanayam सीताय अरोचकत्वे अपि सीतैव तत् वैगुण्य निरासकम् अनुषधम् इति विवेकिनः तस्यः एव यथा मुहुर् उपसेवने कालेन साद्वितीयं साध्वीयम साध्वीयम आभादिति तस्या एव रोचकत्वं तथैव विद्यादि विदूषितस्य जीवान्तकरणस्य शरणादि भक्त्या तद्दोष प्रशमे तस्याम रुचिर उद्भवति. The actual conclusion can be understood as follows. For the tongue afflicted by jaundice, the mere taste of natural rock candy is unpleasant. Nonetheless, according to the opinion of the wise, such rock candy is actually the cure for jaundice. By regularly taking rock candy, one can gradually perceive its sweetness and a taste for it develops. In the same way, by continuously engaging in bhakti characterized by Shravan, Kirtan, etc., the heart of the living entity polluted by nations, avidya, and so forth becomes cleansed of these defects and ruchi for bhakti is awakened. Here Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur asserts that one whose tongue is afflicted by jaundice finds rock candy, which is naturally sweet, to be bitter. Ayurvedic doctors tell us that rock candy is a most effective medicine for jaundice, that one who takes it regularly will be cured, and that to the degree that one is cured, one will gradually appreciate its sweetness. Similarly, although a person whose mind is afflicted by the contamination of ignorance, avidya, false identification, asmita, material attachment, raga, aversion, dvesha, and absorption in worldly objects, avinivesha, one may hear and extol the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Hari, which are superlatively sweet by nature. It does not relish that sweetness. Exalted and enlightened personalities declare the Shravan and Kirtan of the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Hari to be the sole elixir for destroying the disease of ignorance and other such impurities. By continuous hearing and recitation, the heart is gradually cleansed of pollution, and the disease of ignorance vanishes. To the degree that this takes place, one will develop a taste in Shravana, Kirtan, and so forth. This is how the sadhaka's taste is awakened in these practices. Bhagavan Shri Krishna describes this to Uddhava in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11 Canto, 14 Chapter, 26 verse. Yatha yatatma parimrajyate aso matpunyagatha shravana vidhanai तथा तथा पश्यति वस्तु सूक्ष्मं चक्षु यथैवाञ्जना संप्रयुक्तम्. Uddhava, just as defective eyes are cured by the application of collyrium and begin to develop the power to see minute objects, so the mind is cleansed of mundane contamination by hearing and speaking about my pastimes, which are supremely purifying. The sadhaka thus begins to pursue subtle reality. In other words, he is able to experience the sweetness of my names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. Taste dependent on external excellence in relation to Bhagavan, and taste not dependent on such external excellence. Saja ruchir divida vastu vaishishthana apekshini tad vastu vaishishta apekshini tad anapekshini cha vastunam Bhagwan Nama Rupa Guna Lila Dina Vaishishtam Kirtanasya Soswarya Dimatvam Varnita Bhagavad Charitra Charitadir Gunalankara Dhvani Adimatvam Paricharya Dinam Tadrusha Swabhishta Desha Patra Dravyadi Sad Bhavana Bhavavattam यद अपेक्षते तद वस्तु वैशिष्ट्यापेक्षिणी किम किम कीदृशम व्यंजनम अस्ति इति पृच्छताम मंद शुद्धवत्ताम इव प्रथमा सेयम यतो अंतःकरणस्य यत् किंचित दोषलभ एव कीर्तनादिनाम वैशिष्ट्यम अपेक्षते अतो अस्ति अंतःकरण दोषाभास नेय. द्वितीया तु यथा तन्नाम रूपादि उपक्रम एव बलवती भवन्ति, वैशिष्ट्ये तु अति प्रौढ़त्वम् आपद्यमानेयं नास्ति, मनोवैकुण्य गंधा एव ज्ञेया. Ruchi is of two types. Number one, ruchi that is dependent on external excellence in relation to Bhagavan, vastu vaishishta apekshini. And number two, ruchi that is not dependent on external excellence in relation to Bhagavan, vastu vaishishta anapekshini. Here, vastu refers to the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Bhagavan, and vaishishta refers to their external excellence. For example, one may anticipate a pleasing and sweet melody in Kirtan. One may be eager to hear a description of the transcendental characteristics and pastimes of Bhagavan that is expressed in appropriate ornate language, voice, tone, and so forth. Or one may expect, in accordance with one's cherished standard, that the service and worship of Bhagavan is performed appropriately and to perfection in terms of place, time, person, purity of ingredients, etc. The ruchi that develops in one who is dependent on these external excellences is called vastu vaishishta apekshini ruchi. This is likened to a person who sits down to take a meal and asks, what kinds of dishes have been prepared? How tasteful are they? Such inquiries would be symptomatic of a mild appetite only. Vastu Vaishishta Apekshana Ruchi is something like that. If one's mind is contaminated by the slightest trace of impurity, then one's taste in Kirtan and other limbs of bhakti will depend upon the above mentioned external excellences. We should know that this type of ruchi reveals one's mind, reveals that one's mind is still enveloped in a layer of contamination. The second type of ruchi, however, vastu vaishishta anapekshani ruchi, taste that is not dependent on external excellence in relation to Bhagavan, is extremely powerful from the moment one engages in Shravan and Kirtan of Shri Bhagavan's names, forms, and so forth. And if excellence in relation to Shri Bhagavan's names, forms, and so forth happens to be present, for example, when the Kirtan is performed with melody, meter, and musical flourishes, etc., then this ruchi ripens even more and one becomes filled with immense delight. It is to be understood that not even the slightest scent of any defect remains in the heart of one in whom this type of ruchi has awakened. Vyushvarshini vritti. Ruchi is of two types, vastu vaishishta apekshani and vastu vaishishta anapekshani. Vastu vaishishta apekshani, taste, ruchi, that is dependent on the external excellence of an object, vastu. We should understand here the word vastu refers to Bhagavan. When there is an expectation that kirtan of the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Bhagavan should be performed with wonderful melodies and proper rhythm and meter, that the narrations about him should contain enchanting descriptions endowed with ornate language, and that the service and worship of the deity of Sri Bhagavan should be performed in a cherished and pure place at an appropriate time and with charming ingredients. It indicates vastu vaishishta apekshani ruchi. In other words, in the absence of these elements, one's relation is not awakened. Before taking a meal, a person with little appetite will ask, what foodstuffs have been prepared? How palatable are they? Conversely, a person who is famished will not ask such questions. He accepts whatever has been prepared, whether it is tasty or not. In the same way, those with a strong taste for the limbs of bhakti do not carry the expectation that the kirtan should be melodic, cadential, rhythmic, and so forth. The minds of those who hold such expectations have not been purified have not been purified completely. It is to be understood that a trace of contamination still exists. Vastu Vaishishtanapekshani, taste, ruchi, that is not dependent on the external excellence of an object, vastu. A person with this type of ruchi does not expect any of the above mentioned excellences. From the outset, his hearing and chanting of the names, forms, qualities, etc. of Sri Bhagavan is resolute, intense, and brimming with enthusiasm. Such ruchi is composed of unflinching faith in the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes and worship of Sri Bhagavan. It does not hinge upon melodic, rhythmic, or musical elements in the performance of Kirtan. But if the features of external excellence are present, that ruchi develops further into an extremely mature state. For example, an exceedingly hungry person eats food without caring whether it is tasty or not. He happily consumes plain rice even without an accompanying dish of mixed vegetables. At the same time, if various first-class dishes are available, he experiences an even more astonishing relish of them. This ruchi that does not rely on any external excellence is referred to as Vastu Vaishishta Anapekshana Ruchi. If, however, such excellence is present, this ruchi matures greatly and becomes completely delectable. When this type of ruchi is awakened, not even the slightest scent of the impurity of dependence on external attributes lingers in the heart. Text 4. The despondency and bliss of a person in whom ruchi has awakened. Tataschahu Krishnamamritani vihaya kim iti dushparigraha yogakshema varta visheshu nimachesi tvam vakyam bravimi dhinmam yad aham api pamaraha Shri Guru Charana Prasad Labdham api etad vastu स्वग्रंथि निबद्धम महारत्नम इवानु पलभ्य परितो भ्रमम एतावंतम कालम अन्नव्या पार पारावार मध्ये मिथ्या सुखलेश स्फुटित कपर्दक मात्रम अन्विष्यांसि वृथैवानयम् भक्ते कमपि अनङ्गीकुर्वन् शक्तेर् अभवन् एवाद्योतत्वम् हन्त सैवाहं सैवेयं मे रसना याहि अनृतः कटु ग्राम्य प्रलापम अमृतम इव लिह्यति भगवन् नाम गुण वार्तासु सालसैवासित हंत हंत तत्कथ श्रवणारंभ एव स्वापम भजंस तदैव कदाचित प्रस्तुतायां ग्राम्य वार्तायां उत्कर्णतया लब्ध जागरम साधुनां सदैव तत् सकलम अकलंकयम् अस्य च दुष्पुरस्य जठरस्य कृते जरठो अपि कान् दुष्कृतोद्यमां नाकरवम् तदहं न जाने कस्मिन् वा निरये स्वकृतफलम् उपभुञ्जाना स्थास्यामिति निर्विद्यमानस्तदैव क्वचित् अहोरहो भुवि महोपनिषदः कल्पवल्ली फल सारं सारंगैव प्रभो चरितामृतं स्वाद्यन् अभिवादयन् मुहुर्मुहुर् अपि साधुन् अव्याधुत संलापस्तिष्ठन् उपविशन् प्रविशन् अपि भगवद्धाम बद्धामल सेवा निष्ठस्तन्ना तन्मना उन्मना इवाभिज्ञ लोकैर् आलक्ष्यमाणो भक्तजन भजनानंद नृत्या नृत्याध्यायम् अध्येतुम् उपक्रममाण इव रुचि नर्तकस् इव इव रुचि नर्तक्या पाणिभ्यां गृहीत्वेव तत्तत् शिक्षमाण इव कांचनमुदम् अननुभूत चरिम उपलभे न जाने कुशलवाचार्याभ्यां भाव प्रेमाभ्यां तालेन प्रविश्य नर्तयिष्यामाणः कस्यां वा निवर्तिनी वृत्ति विराजयिष्यति इति माधुर्य कादम्बिन्याम् उपलब्धास्वाद नाम पंचमी अमृतवर्ष्टि. O my friend, having abandoned the nectar of the name of Sri Krishna, why are you becoming absorbed in talk of acquiring and maintaining that which is difficult to attain? What shall I say to you? Fie on me indeed. By the mercy of the lotus feet of Sri Guru, a most sinful person like me attained something as great as devotion to the Supreme Lord, Bhagavad Bhakti. Not understanding its value, I have forgotten about it. Just as one may forget about a precious jewel bound within the hem of one's cloth. In this way, I wander here and there in the hope of attaining false, insignificant happiness, just as one searches in all four directions for a chipped cowrie, a shell used as money. I abandoned the practice of Bhagavad Bhakti and wasted my entire life wandering throughout the ocean of worldly sense gratification. By not accepting and engaging in any of the activities of Bhakti, I have exposed my complete powerlessness. Alas, alas, my tongue also like me is wicked by nature. To this day, it licks up bitter gossip, which is full of falsity, as if it is nectar, but it is lazy to test the ambrosial names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Bhagwan. Alas, alas, sleepiness overwhelms me as soon as I sit to hear Hari's Katha. But if material gossip starts, then my sleepiness vanishes, and I am all ears, eager to imbibe it with complete attentiveness. In this way, time and again, I have disgraced the assembly of saintly persons. Even in my old age, what bad activity have I not endeavored to perform merely to fill my ever dissatisfied belly? I do not know in which hell I am destined to suffer the results of these wicked acts, nor for how long. The swan like devotee, gripped by this state of lamentation, while living on this earth, repeatedly relishes and offers obeisances to the nectarian characteristics of Sri Bhagwan. Such characteristics are the essence of the fruit of the wish-fulfilling wine of the great Upanishads, which hold the most confidential of all topics, leaving aside all mundane talk. Such a devotee first sits in an assembly of sadhus, then resides near those sadhus, and finally enters their fellowship. Sometimes he takes refuge in Bhagwan's holy abode, where he performs steadfast, immaculate service to him. He completely gives his mind to that service and eventually attains full absorption in it. To the ignorant, he appears to be scatterbrained, but the female dancer named Ruchi personally begins to give him lessons on the rapturous dance of bhajan, as if taking him by both hands. Consequently, that devotee is seized by an unprecedented joy. In due course, when the two teachers of dance, Bhav and Prem, make him dance, who can know in which realm of bliss he will reside? Thus ends the Bhavanuvada of the fifth shower of nectar named Upalabdha Svada, realization of transcendental test. A sadhaka in whom Ruchi has awakened manifest bodily, vocal, and mental anubhavas, expressions of the spiritual emotions of the heart. Here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes the behavior of such a sadhaka so that we can easily understand it. A person whose heart has blossomed with Ruchi is called a Jata Ruchi sadhaka. Such a sadhaka converses with his companion, the mind as follows: "O my friend, why do you abandon the nectar of the sweet name of Sri Krishna and instead remain absorbed in talking about how to acquire and maintain material objects, which are extremely troublesome to attain? To degree that Ruchi for Sri Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes has awakened in the sadhaka, it develops a corresponding distaste for that which is unrelated to Krishna, such as a disdain for material objects and topics. Upon noting the earnestness of his beloved friend, his mind, to amass material objects, the Jata Ruchi Sadhaka feels much sadness. Indeed, the nature of bhakti is such that when she even slightly manifests her splendor within the sadhaka regards himself as most unqualified and degraded. And he begins to condemn himself. It is solely this distress, characterized by the feeling that he has no bhakti, that gradually elevates him to the highest stages of sadhana. A Jataruchi sadhaka condemns himself as follows: "O my mind, O my friend, what more can I say to you? Fie on me. I am most wretched and detestable. By the mercy of my Gurudev, I attained Bhagavad Bhakti, but I did not honor it even slightly, just as one who easily attains a precious jewel and binds it in the hem of one's cloth becomes unmindful of it. Instead, just to fill my belly, I wandered here and there in search of insignificant wealth, and I absorbed myself in materialistic gossip. In this way, my whole life has passed in vain. Unable to perform bhajan, I spent all my time engrossed in mundane talk and false gossip, which are related only to sense gratification and not to Sri Krishna. Still, I relished this with my tongue as if it were nectar, and I was indolent in regard to hearing Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. Alas, alas, I would become overwhelmed with sleepiness as soon as I started to hear Harikatha. But if at that time some mundane gossip began, my sleepiness would instantly disappear and I would become all ears. I do not know how many times I have disgraced the assembly of saintly persons by such behavior. If someone begins to fall asleep while listening to Harikatha in an assembly of devotees, it affects other listeners who then also feel sleepy. Someone observing this may wonder, do the people in this assembly sleep even while hearing Harikatha? His criticism passes from one person to another, and as a result, the entire assembly of sadhus is defamed. A sadhaka in whom Ruchi has appeared remembers this past condition and reprimands himself. Lamenting thus, a Jata Ruchi sadhaka, Jata Ruchi devotee continues: "Although I am old, what wicked acts have I not attempted to perform simply to fill my belly, which is never satisfied to endure the result of these sinful acts? I do not know what hellish planet I am destined for, nor for how long." In this way, being gripped by a state of callousness to the material world, the swan-like devotee repeatedly relishes the nectarian characteristics of Sri Hari. These characteristics are the very essence of the fruit born of the wish-fulfilling wine of the great Upanishads, and they emanate from the lotus lips of exalted saintly personalities inhabiting this earth. The sadhaka now leaves aside all mundane talk and exclusively resides in the society of sadhus, Sometimes he enters the temple of Bhagwan and becomes steadfastly absorbed in performing immaculate loving service to him. In this way, all the limbs of bhakti, such as hearing and chanting and worshipping, become supremely relishable for the Jata Ruchi sadhaka. The ignorant think such a sadhaka mad, the most expert dance instruments, the most expert dance instructress, Ruchi, takes him by the hands and in the assembly of devotees, imparts to him teachings from the lessons on the dance of devotional bliss, Bhajananda, which bestows supreme happiness. At this time, he experiences an ecstasy like never before. In due course, the two masters of dance, Bhav and Prema, come to instruct him, who then will be able to describe the extent of the bliss he experiences. Such ecstasy is inexpressible. The sequence in which Vastu Vaishishta Anapekshana Ruchi is awakened and comes to its fully ripened stage has thus been described. This Ruchi matures and grows, and at the appropriate time culminates in Bhava and Prema. The author has elucidated this here. The state prior to Bhava, Asakti, is described next in the sixth shower of nectar. Thus ends the Piyusha Varshini Vritti on the fifth shower of nectar named Upalabdhasvada, realization of transcendental test. So next time we'll begin from the sixth shower of nectar, enchantment of the heart, sadhan bhakti, and the stage of asakti. This is the final stage of the sadhan bhakti. Then bhav bhakti will begin. So we'll next time we'll be continuing from the page number 339. Asakti. Ruchi pertains to bhajan and asakti pertains to bhajaniya. Showing the difference between what is Ruchi. Ruchi pertains to bhajan and asakti pertains to bhajaniya, means the object of bhajan, Sri Krishna. So thank you so much for attending today's class. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhescha kripa sindhubheva pritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Dandavad pranams. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. So, if anyone has any comments or questions, you can always ask. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. All right. So I'll give Jadvani, or Anup Prabhu is there. So, Anand Mohan Prabhu, please give Jadvani, Prabhu.
Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Giridhari Radha Vinod Balaji ki jai. Om Vishnu Parastotra Srimad Bhakti Vinod Vishnu Devi Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Om Vishnu Parastotra Srimad Bhakti Vinod Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitile Vishnu Vishnu Parastotra Srimad Bhakti Vinod Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitile Vishnu Vishnu Parastotra Srimad Bhakti Vinod Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitile Vishnu Vishnu Parastotra Srimad Bhakti Vinod Swami Maharaj ki jai. Nitile Vishnu Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitile Vishnu Vishnu Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitile Vishnu Shri Guruksudas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitile Shri Shri Siddhananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Nitile Shri Vaishnava Sarvaguna Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Gauri Vedanta Acharya Shri Baladev Vidabhushan Prabhu ki jai. Shri Vishnu Chakra Thakur ki jai. Shri Narottam Srinivas Shyamnanda Prabhu Trai ki jai. Shri Krishna Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatavana Shri Gopal Bhadas Rasat Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Swarup Damodar Raya Ramandar Shri Gaur Prasad Vindi ki jai. Naam Acharya Shri Thakur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Vedi Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakti Vindi ki jai. Shantadev Mayapur Shri Madhadev Godamudev Madhyadev Koladev Ritudev Janudev Modra Drumdev Vadati Patmakar Shri Navdev Dham ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopi Go Govardhan Varsh Bandmakar Shri Vajmandal ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Shyamakund Ganga Jamunat ki jai. Shrimati Vindedev ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki jai. Shri Gopishwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Darshan Chakra Ji ki jai. Kshetra Mandir ki jai. Sarva Vigna Vinash Krishna Shri Gev ki jai. Bhakta Prabhash Prahlad Maha ki Char Dham ki jai. Char Sankara ki jai. Akar Matarash Chaitanya Maha ki jai. Shri Keshri Gopal ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Krishna Vind ki jai. Samagata Bhakta Vind ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaura Premana Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Sharanman Prabhu ki jai. Samagata Bhakta Vind ki jai. Jai Ho. Vancha kalpatarubhescha kripa sindhubheva paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, devotees. I hope you heard the class, and it's a very good explanation by Srila Gurudev, Srila Vishwanath Thakur about the glories of the holy name, how precious it is, and different stages of the sadhaka. One is on the stage of Nishtha, one is on the stage of Ruchi. And Ruchi also has two parts, Vastu Vaishishta Apekshana Ruchi and Vastu Vaishishta Anapekshana Ruchi. So some people, they have a taste only if some good singer is singing kirtan and not when someone else is singing. But one who has developed advanced rati, then he will relish the kirtan, whoever is singing that. So these are the different characteristics of different ruchi. But asakti is more about bhajaniya, the object of devotion. But ruchi is for the bhajan, means devotional service. So that's a subtle difference there. That we'll discuss in the next class. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhesha kripasa. Patidanam pavani Dhanyavadas. Thank you all of you. Please come tomorrow also online for the Jaiva Dharma class. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Sripad Bhaktivedanta Vishnu Daivata Mj ki jai. And check out the Vishnu Kripasani
Pasanda Bevacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namah Vishakadiji ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for attending today. Thank you, dear devotees, for also attending today. And we'll see you all tomorrow for Java Dharma class. Hare Krishna. Dandavad Pranam.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you all the devotees. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Dhanavad.